Welcome back to my channel. I'm Reshma and here you are going to see Edmund Spenser. During the time of revival, that is during Renaissance time, some true ambitious poets emerged. Of them, our Edmund Spenser was the greatest non-dramatic poet. He brings together the English myth and the topical adulation of monarch into one single most ambitious contribution to English poetry and the single most important work in the history of English poetry, that is his masterpiece, the Faery Queene. So, before seeing Faery Queene in depth, let's see his life. Edmund Spenser was born in London in 1552 and he got educated in the Merchant Taylors' School and Cambridge. There, he come under the influence of strong Protestant spirit and he get influenced with many Italian literature and classics. After that, he goes for a job to the house of Earl of Leicester where he befriends Sir Philip Sidney. After that, in 1580, he goes to Ireland as a secretary for new Lord Deputy, Lord Grey de Wilton. But there, among the lawless people, he suffered a lot and he hated them miserably. So he had an exile from there. In October 1598, a rebellion took place in Tyrone where he was living then. He and his household were plundered and the house was put on fire by some infuriated mob. He and his family members barely escaped their life. With his crushed spirit and failing health, he reached London somehow by the end of the year. And on 16th January 1599, in an inn at Westminster, he dies. Spenser, with his taste for classics and the revival of learning, he wrote a pastoral elegy, Shepherd's Calendar, in 1579. He was greatly influenced for writing this by the late Greek critic Theocritus and Virgil in his Bucolica and many French and Italian Renaissance writers. This poem is divided into 12 parts, one for each month of the year. Here, the poem in a guise of pastoral elegy is a discussion or the talk or singing of shepherds about their unfortunate love for a mysterious woman, Rosalind. Here, along with this, there is some dealings about sundry issues, moral talks, and also about religious issue with a strong Protestant spirit. The same pastoral imagery continues in his next poem, Ashrafel, which is an elegy written on the death of his close friend Sir Philip Sidney, for whom he dedicates the Shepherd's Calendar to. His another work, Four Hymns, is a very beautiful melodious verse which deals with or honors love and beauty. He also has written a series of 88 sonnets called Amority in a Petrarch style. Here he describes about his progress of love for Elizabeth Boyle, whom he marries in 1594. The next poem is a wedding hymn called Epithalamium, which commemorates the marriage of him with Elizabeth Boyle. Faery Queene is one of the longest and the largest of English poems. Spenser's original plan was to write 12 books of Faery Queene, but unfortunately he was able to complete only 6 parts, and the 7th unfinished one was published after his death. According to his own statement, he planned to write each book independent and self-contained and to have some connection to make it generally part of a single whole. We come to know about his underlining plan by his prefatory letter for his friend Sir Walter Raleigh. Thus, the outline of Faery Queene goes this way. Faery Queene is organizing an annual feast for 12 successive days And each day she is assigning one knight to undergo certain adventures, and each adventure becomes a story in each book. And to connect each book, here comes a central figure, Prince Arthur, who has dreamt about Gloriana, the Faery Queen, and is in search of her. On the way, he meets each knight who is in their own adventure, and here he acts as a link between one part and the another. The poem is highly symbolic and allusive. Here, the Faery Queen resembles the Queen Elizabeth of England, and the poem also echoes the Arthurian legends where Prince Arthur is the greatest hero of British chivalry cycle. Externally speaking, Faery Queen seem to have modeled Italian romantic epic, and especially the Italian master Ariosto, is because we have all traditional elements which is needed for epic like chivalry, giants, dragons, wizard, dwarf, then knights with superhuman power, and distressed damsel with marvelous beauty. Everything is present in this work, and throughout the poem, enchantment, love passage, and endless fight is the staple of this plot. Faery Queen is not simply a romance, it is didactic romance. That is, Spenser uses this as a vehicle to give his lesson or to teach some moral. The first allegory which we have to mention is the allegory of 12 knights, each representing one cardinal virtues that comes in Aristotle's philosophy. This can be seen through the knights. The knight in the first book, that is Red Cross Knight, resembles holiness. The second book, Sir Guyon, represent temperance. Then in the third, Britomartis represent chastity. Then in the fourth, Camwell and Triamond together represent friendship. And the fifth, Artigal represent justice. And in the sixth, Sir Calidore represent courtesy. So this shows that this work is an ethical allegorical work. We can also see religious allegory. See, when the knight used to go for certain adventure, he, because of these virtues, used to get into certain temptation, and it was Prince Arthur, who symbolizes divine power, used to rescue from these temptations. So there is some religious element also in the work. That is first book, Red Cross Knight goes to save the parents of Lady Una, who is under the clutches of dragons for many years. It represents the true religion going and rescuing humanity from the clutches of Satan, dragon. And the men and the people whom this Red Cross Knight sees on the way are the enemies of true religion. Here, historically, when we talk, the enemies of true religion, according to Spenser, are the papacy, then the enemies of England, and the ally of Spain and Mary of Scott. So, historical allegory can also be seen in this poem. When we talk about the demerits of Spenser, his poems are sometimes considered as confusing and also inconsistent because he had used allegory in a great extent. Because of the excessive use of allegory, the true sense of romance or the true sense of epic has been lost. But when we talk about his merit, he is a language storyteller. He has a wonderful sense of beauty and is fully filled with pictorial power. His work is filled with noble moral spirit and has a quality of pure essential poetry. The language that Spenser used was not the same language which was spoken during the time of Spenser. He creates a new dialect to make the poem look archaic. In the same way, his stanza form was also his own invention. He uses Chaucer's stanza form, which he uses in Knight's Tale, that is AB, AB, BC, BC. This 8-line stanza, to this he adds the last one line called Alexandrine, which is of 6 iambic feet instead of 5 feet, and thus creates a new style or a new stanza form AB, AB, BC, BC, C, which is called as Spenserian stanza now. Thus, it is absolutely right to say him as poet's poet. Thank you for watching my video till the end. If you like the way I am teaching, please subscribe to my channel and please do comment some interesting topic which you want to learn from me, and keep learning. Until then, signing off from you, Reshma.